I'm Dr. Teria Shantall, the president of the Viktor Frankl Institute of Logotherapy in South Africa. I've been asked by my dear friend and colleague, Elison Santos, to just comment as a logotherapist on the world situation we are facing today with the Russian incursion into the Ukraine. We have just emerged and are still suffering the effects of the coronavirus pandemic. And just like the pandemic, I believe as a logotherapist that this is a challenge to all of us to wake up and consider who we are. I'm speaking to you from my hometown, Modi'in, in Israel, part of a nation that knows what it is like to be helpless victims of powers too great for them to resist. But having experienced the Holocaust, when we were without a country, without a government, without an army, that it is possible, even in the face of the greatest of dangers and the most abominable of injustices, that we can still stand up as human beings and say, we are here. We have a right to life. We have a right to be who we are. And we stand up for what human beings are supposed to be like. Logotherapy is based on the work of Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor. And that is why, if we contemplate his teachings, we can be inspired today not to fall into despair and feelings of hopelessness and confusion, but into a courage that has a determination to bring some change for better in the world. For one thing, the Holocaust has brought a people back in their land to say, never again. We will not lie down that people can just walk over us. We are in a position now to defend ourselves. And it is this defiant power of the human spirit that we can celebrate even today, because the message that Viktor Frankl brought out of the concentration and death camps of Nazi Europe was to say it's possible to say, this is wrong. This we stand up against. This we will have nothing to do with. What are the fundamentals of logotherapy that we then can now consider in a more inspiring way? And the inspiration is for us to take a stand, and not only a stand against what is wrong, but actions to foster what is right in the world. We all have, undeniably, what Frankl had experienced in the camp, the ability and freedom to know what is right and to be able to resist what is wrong. He calls it our unscathed human spirit, our freedom to take a stand, our freedom to act in the way according to what is presented to our own conscience, a consciousness of right and wrong that none of us can deny or try and escape. We all know what is fundamentally right and what is harmful to that fundamental right. And what is the fundamental right? It is the first principle of logotherapy that each human being is endowed with an inherent dignity. the dignity of self-worth, of self-respect, of being able to say, here I am, like a prophet Isaiah said, send me to be a voice for good in this world, because Viktor Frankl said, this is our calling, as paradoxical as it may seem, that we find ourselves in a world that needs healing and correction, and that we are subject to things that are wrong, to pain and suffering, and we do things ourselves that are wrong. We have feelings of guilt. But, and this is the most fundamental realization of all, the fact that we have a short span of life, that we are not on this earth now in an eternal sense of the word, that death brings an end to the time that we've been given to fulfill our calling, it makes life a task. We can't just sit idly by or be apathetic or indifferent to, or seek out our own little corner of happiness, shutting our eyes and ears to what is happening around us. Each one of us is called to do our share in promoting good in the world, even in the smallest of ways. We may not be in a situation that can do anything to stop the suffering of the Ukrainian people, but where we can, we will offer our assistance, and we will open our arms, and we will foster the voices in the world that will stand against the evil of not respecting the rights and the spaces of others in this world. Because here are the fundamentals of logotherapy. That because we have inherent dignity, we must recognize and regard as sacred the dignity of another. Not the smallest of hurts and of afflictions and of humiliations of one towards the other can ever be designated as right. We know that it is wrong. Our guilt consciousness makes us aware that we should correct that kind of attitude and action in ourselves. And then, why have this fundamental urge towards what is meaningful and right and just in this world, if that meaning cannot be found, if life itself isn't a precious commodity? I mean, the very fact that we can't hold on to it and that we can't prevent ourselves from dying makes life a task. We are commissioned and called upon to do something that would benefit those around us and in our particular situations and circumstances. We have to make our voice heard and our actions felt. Frankl based his teachings on the great Jewish sage Hillel that says, and I just want to let us consider this for a moment. Hillel's saying goes like this: if I am not for myself, who will be for me? Who will live my life? Who will have my voice? Who will have my influence in the world? If I am not for myself, who will be for me? Only I can live the life I have been given. And then, but if I am only for myself, then who am I? And here is the whole thrust of our challenge and vocation as human beings in this world. What does human mean? Human means humane, that we have to be humane in our actions one towards the other. The Holocaust was a demonstration of the greatest of and the most evil of man's inhumanity to man. And the call now in our world is to say, never again. And there's a message of hope here, as much as there is a message of urgency, because the last saying of Hillel is, and if not now, when? Can I procrastinate? I don't have life to live forever here and now. Am I going to put off actions that I can take? And every moment challenges me to right action and right conduct. This is why Frankl said we are to use the passing time and to use it well. But I want to leave you with a message of hope, because you know what? If we are challenged to regard life as precious, then life is precious. Then it can be precious. Life is beautiful, and it can be beautiful. And this is what Frankl said, what man is, he may not be yet, but he ought to be and should become. We have that challenge of human greatness before us, more now in this day and hour than ever before. Why? Because life is a journey. We learn along the way, don't we? We're born as infants in purity of innocence, but in that innocence is confronted with pain and with guilt, and with the vulnerability of being mortal. And each child, as it grows up, all of us are challenged as to who are we, and why are we, and what are we supposed to do? We all feel this call in our lives. And you know, like the journey of life where we accumulate knowledge through life experiences, and where we contemplate and study, meditate and think, and come to conclusions by what we see and experience, we gain in spiritual maturity, in wisdom and understanding. And as much as this is the story of an individual life, of your life and mine, it's the story of mankind. We are not in the beginning of time in the savagery of ignorance. Over the centuries we have gained wisdom and understanding. We are at the brink of spiritual maturity in this world. And you know, as I'm speaking to you from Israel, I can also take recourse to the Jewish and Hebrew scriptures. And there is a wonderful portrayal of the evolvement in human history of an awareness of good in contrast to the fallacious and delusional power of evil. And the lesson that good has the power to overcome evil, truth has the power to overcome the lie, that which is delusional, that tells us that we are something else than what we are supposed to be. We're not brute animals fighting for survival, the one dominating the other. We know as human beings that we all have a sacred space in this world, and we are responsible for that space, each in our own country, each in our own nations, and we each have a contribution to make in terms of determining the character of that nation. Will we elect leaders that can truly lead us, or will we take leaders down that do not lead us in the right way? We have that power of influence in in combining our voices for the good. And in Daniel was given a vision of an image which actually portrays the delusional power of evil, of tyrant regimes in this world that are essentially inhumane and life-abrogating systems of this world. It starts with the head of gold. It looks so powerful, but it diminishes to a breast of silver, not as precious a substance as gold. And then it diminishes to hips of bronze, even a lesser type of material, down to the legs of iron, so much less a precious metal than gold or bronze or silver and gold. And what does it end in? Feet of iron and clay. Clay? In other words, the iron can't hold together. Evil terrorist forces, and this is what we're facing today, terrorism of splinter groups that cannot combine behind a kind of a Hitler figure anymore, because one is against the other. And in fact, their power is not going to hold. Why? Because the forces for good has developed in the world. And Daniel saw this image being broken by a stone, an immovable stone of truth, and crushed the feet of iron and clay. And Frankl was the one that said that what we are in need now is to find a common will, to common meaning, to have a new humanity in the world, a new mankind, a mankind that together can stand up against the delusional power of evil and say, we are here and we have overcome the forces of evil. And the end story, like we should, please God, end our own lives with feelings of triumph and gratitude. The end story of human history is a magnificent one. The destruction of evil will see a new world coming, a world in which nation will not lift up sword against nation, nor learn war anymore.